Welcome back, everyone. It's good to have you here. I hope you're all doing well. Today's message is one that comes straight from the heart, and it's going to resonate with those of you that feel like you have died and been reborn into a different version of yourself multiple times over the course of your spiritual awakening or spiritual journey. This message is for all of my alchemists out there who, despite all of the obstacles, loss after loss, death after rebirth, somehow find a way to still keep transforming and growing and turning their pain into purpose. This is for those of you who have never given up on your journey, who stay committed to your path and your purpose and your mission, and you keep healing and spreading your light to the planet in a beautiful way. I don't know how you do it. I'm extremely proud of you. I really hope that this message gives you some encouragement and confirmation that you're on the right path and that everything you have been through has been for a purpose and it wasn't in vain. Let's dive in. All right, so in thinking about this message, what keeps coming to me over the course of the last few years of my own journey is this term alchemy. And I've come to understand it at a deeper level than when I first saw the term. But really it started with the book, The Alchemist. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I'm going to put a picture of the book up because since I'm traveling, I don't have this book with me. But this book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, a Brazilian writer, is probably the best example of what spiritual alchemy looks like in real life. And I want to start with a definition of spiritual alchemy so that we're all on the same page with what we're talking about here, and then talk about how you have used this process of alchemy to turn really difficult life circumstances into the positive, into something that can help others on their journey, into something that can heal, teach, lead, build, or create. To me, the way I've come to understand spiritual alchemy, and this might be the way that you've experienced it as well, is that it's sort of the inner work or self-transformation that we go through when we're on our spiritual journey and we're learning how to shed old versions of ourselves. And that's not just our personality and our identity, but we're shedding lots of things. We're shedding wounding and beliefs and roles that we played. In the physical sense, of course, alchemy is turning lead, something that's really dense and really heavy, into gold, which is light and has value and it shines. In spiritual terms, we're doing the same thing. We're taking pain and emotional wounding. We're taking states of ignorance and fear, and we're transforming them into something lighter. We are undergoing this process of shedding and getting rid of all of the things that do not belong to our true divine nature so that we can ascend and elevate towards that higher version of ourselves. So in the process of awakening, we have to keep going through this alchemization several times. It's not something you do once and then you're done, as you know. You've been through this, you know. You may think that you've healed a wound and then you're in another relationship or job or situation or environment and that wound comes back up again for your attention. You may think that you have changed certain beliefs and then you notice yourself falling back into old patterns. You may be around certain people and you start to play the role that you were trained or conditioned to play with them. So it is never a one and done thing. When we're evolving spiritually and when our consciousness is rising, alchemy requires that we're constantly undergoing this process of refinement and inner self-transformation. Inner transformation is that a lot of times it's not completely recognizable to people around you on the outside. It's something that happens internally over a course of years. You know, for most of us, it's a journey of taking the pain from living in this very dense, difficult human world and transmuting it into positive lessons, transmuting it into wisdom that we can carry forward with us. And we take all of the pain and all of the lessons and we turn it into something beautiful. And that is what is so incredible about this process of awakening. The things that we go through have a purpose, and the things that we go through are intended to serve the greater good in some way, shape, or form. Even if that just means that your pain is fuel for your creative passions, fuel for inspiration to write something, to make a piece of art, to create a course that's going to help someone, to give back in some way, organize gatherings, be a support system to someone that doesn't have one. Whatever it looks like, you as the alchemist are transforming so much darkness and density in this earthly realm into something beautiful that can change lives. And I hope you know how amazing that is. So in the book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, this boy goes on a quest for his personal legend. And he is told about this alchemist that he has to travel very far to find his treasure. And in the process of going on this journey, looking for this thing outside of himself that he thinks is going to fulfill his dreams or bring him the wealth or the lifestyle he's always wanted, he meets a girl, he falls in love, and he learns a whole lot of lessons. And he learns a whole lot of different things about himself that he never would have learned if he hadn't gone on this quest. And this book is significant because this boy gets to the end and he finds the alchemist, and it turns out that the treasure was within him all along. That the thing he was searching for outside of himself was actually inside of himself this whole time. And he didn't really need to go on this journey, but because he went on this journey to find his personal legend, he ended up meeting the love of his life. He ended up learning new things, meeting people he never would have met, and growing and evolving to a man, to a much higher version of himself. It's a beautiful story, and if you've never read it, I highly encourage you to read this book. So that is the process of alchemy. Spiritual, physical, it's very similar. How does somebody then, like you, become an alchemist? So why do some people go through this major life transformation and huge growth and evolution, and other people just stay stuck? They just keep repeating the same patterns. They keep entering the same situations, making the same bad decisions, and never learning their lesson and never growing and evolving. Well, let's talk about that. Someone like you became an alchemist because they had to go through really difficult life experiences that shaped their path. They had to go through difficult life experiences like childhood trauma, maybe neglect, maybe abandonment, maybe feeling isolated or alone, like nobody saw them or understood them. They had to go through many different life circumstances, trials, and tribulations that would have probably broken most people. You know, you maybe went through loss or poverty. Maybe you grew up having nothing. Maybe you grew up not really feeling like you had a family, or that your family didn't truly love and support you for who you were. Maybe you had to go through heartbreaks and devastating losses, loss after loss, where each time you got knocked to the ground and you felt like you couldn't go on anymore and you didn't know if you were going to make it. And somehow you had this inner strength. The people who end up alchemizing these difficult life experiences are people who were born with this inner strength. You came specifically here to this planet at this time to help with the Great Awakening, and you were given years, I will say lifetimes, of wisdom and information and lessons that helped you overcome challenges so that each time you came back or each time the same lesson was presented to you, you were more wise, you were stronger, you were more capable of adapting and overcoming. Alchemists are also people who often experience spiritual attacks because they have an important mission here, because they are not easily pressed or controlled. So there are forces that be that want to keep you small, that want to prevent you from rising into your full potential. So spiritual attacks with your finances, with relationships, with people that try to steer you off course, or with life circumstances, could be financial situations, your living situation, whatever it might be. The people on this path, if I'm talking to you, the alchemists, they can take any of these attacks or these situations and somehow find a way to come out of it with something positive, to come out of it with more light. It's like they take all that darkness and they take all of those really scary, difficult things that would have broken most people, and they take it to God and they somehow create more faith from it. They use it as fuel to fuel their purpose, their passion. Instead of giving up, it makes them more motivated to go out and help people like them who don't have anyone else to turn to, or help others like them who are on this spiritual path and are just needing extra support to get through what they're going through. Alchemists have gone through so many challenges: criticism by people that don't understand you, judgment by those who are closest to you, who are supposed to support you, abandonment, backstabbing, betrayal. You've taken all of that, those ugly things from your past, and you've turned them into this beautiful light that is here to help other people rise. You have taken the negativity, you have taken the traumas and the heartbreak, and you have transformed them into something beautiful. This is what we call transmutation. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but transmutation is the process of transforming the lead or the heaviness of the human experience into spiritual gold, into perfection, kind of like the story of the little boy in the book, The Alchemist, turning the lead or the heaviness into something beautiful. In your experience, you maybe didn't feel like anyone truly saw you or understood how much strength it took for you to get through the trials and tribulations that you went through. You maybe suffered in silence or processed things in silence because you didn't have a strong support system. But that process of going inside and finding your own light when nobody else was there to support you, that process of going inside and looking for gratitude in situations where most people wouldn't have found anything to be grateful for. It made you so strong, and it made you such a loving presence because you have so much incredible compassion for people after going through those things. You have the ability to see why people act the way they do and make the decisions that they do from their wounding, and to have compassion for them where other people maybe don't. You have the ability to see that someone's lack of awareness or consciousness level is preventing them from breaking free from these patterns that they're stuck in. And you remember yourself that you also were once like them. You also were asleep at one point. You also were stuck in patterns that were destructive and going through self-sabotaging behaviors. So you can look at people from a totally different lens after you yourself found a way out of the dark. You are someone who has not only gone through this deep process of purging and shedding old identities of yourself and old belief systems, old insecurities and self-sabotaging behaviors, but you have literally killed off parts of yourself. You have died 1,000 tiny deaths over the course of your spiritual transformation. You've dissolved your old identity. You've rewritten old beliefs. You have rewired your nervous system. You have collapsed old timelines, old survival patterns. You've broken through illusions. You've broken generational curses. You name it. You've broken through all of these layers. And each time you did, you went through this process of dying to your old self. Something in you died, whether it was a belief system or patterning or whatever it might have been. You let that part of you go and dissolve so that you could become something newer, something better, something more conscious and aware and more loving and compassionate. And when you did that, when you went through those layers and deaths and rebirths, you probably felt like you came out a new person. This is why I say alchemists often feel like old souls, because they've literally transformed into new versions of themselves. They have been through this before. They have walked these paths before. They have gone through lifetimes of different lessons and wisdom to help them overcome what they're experiencing in the here and now. And it's something that takes so much courage. I mean, no one else in your bloodline was able to do what you did, to break through generational curses, to go through as much inner work that you did on yourself, the shadow work, the inner child wounding, the process of meditating and connecting to your guides and your higher self. Nobody else in your lineage has done the amount of work that you have done. And you've not only cleared generational curses from this lifetime, but you've also cleared generational curses from previous lifetimes. You were the one in your lineage that came here to stop the patterns, to break the chains, to rewrite history. Learning how to transmute darkness into light is an art form. It truly is. It's an art form. It's an art form that you have perfected over a long period of time. And many will never master this art form. Many did not choose the path that you chose. They chose the easy road, the easy way out of continuing to repeat patterns because it's more comfortable. Because to do what you did takes a lot of discomfort and a lot of pain, because you're losing who you thought you were. You literally have to give up parts of your former self and your former identity. You have to let go of relationships. You have to let go of people, places, identity, beliefs. And most people don't want to do that. Most people do not want to go through the work of becoming what you have become, because it's a risk, because you might be alone for a period of time as you're going through all of these things. But you had practice from a very young age. You were probably born with special gifts, heightened sensitivity, insight, almost even angelic energy, I will say, because you have to have a certain level of compassion and awareness to be able to alchemize the darkness and not lose yourself in it. Your heart is so big and your energy is so bright that even the most difficult life experiences couldn't extinguish your spark. Even things that took you to the edge where you thought you weren't going to make it weren't enough to cause you to give up. They weren't enough to cause you to lose hope in humanity or to lose sight of the bigger picture of how much love is around you and how much support is around you and how much you have to give back to this world. The ones like you who have learned to dive into their shadows, who have learned to overcome the darkness of their minds, they are the ones who will lead us through the collapse of the old world. They are the ones who will be a guiding light, be an anchor to those around them that are losing their footing and getting swallowed up by the chaos of this world. Special souls like these, like you, didn't accidentally stumble upon this path. They are old souls, ancient souls, who have cultivated these gifts over several lifetimes. And they came here specifically at this time to help lead us out of the dark. This isn't your first rodeo, and you know it's not. This is not your first rodeo. Why do you think you had the strength to do what you did? Why do you think you somehow maintained hope when there was none? Why do you think you have the biggest heart of anyone you know? You have spent lifetimes fighting demons that no one knows about. You have spent lifetimes cultivating these gifts, and you became the light, not just because your life was easy or because you always focused on rainbows and sunshines, but because you had the courage to face things that no one else would have the courage to face. You had the courage to face things that most people are terrified of, that most people run from or try to numb or distract themselves from facing. You went down into the underworld, into the shadowy parts of yourself that no one else would have wanted to look at. The parts of yourself that were despicable, deplorable, disgusting, shameful, and you faced those parts. No matter how hard and how scary that was, you faced those parts of yourself because you wanted to become better, because you knew you were here for something more important, because you have that light inside of you that was always guiding you home. You had this unshakable strength to look at your demons and face them and send them love and compassion without running from them. You transmuted all of that darkness into light, and you became the greatest alchemist your family has ever known. I hope you understand how brave and remarkable that is. I hope you understand what a spiritual badass you are, and that you give yourself the credit where credit is due for everything that you've been through. The last part of this message that I want to share is this. You could have gone down the wrong path. You could have allowed the darkness to consume you. You could have used your anger as a weapon, your hurt as a dagger. You could have lashed out and become somebody very cold-hearted, but you didn't. You didn't. You took your anger, your pain, your sadness, and you found a way to turn it into gold. You mixed it with love. You mixed it with the wisdom of the divine, with compassion, and you transformed it instead into art, into creative expression, into something healing, into something that would teach others how to find their way out of the dark. You're a teacher, a leader, a guide, a lighthouse. You became the person that you always needed, the steady force, the person that refused to break under pressure, the person who never gave up, never gave in, who kept climbing, kept rising, kept believing, even after being burned. The fire wasn't here to destroy you. It was here to help you see the light that lived in you all along. Alchemists don't fear the flame. They become it. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this message with you today. My brothers, my sisters, I am so proud of you. I am so grateful for your presence here on this earth and to be able to walk with you on this journey. I'm grateful for everything that you have overcome and the courage that you've had to keep fighting and keep spreading that light throughout this world. You think no one sees you, but God sees you, your angels and ancestors see you, I see you, and we are incredibly proud of you. With that being said, if you feel like you are still stuck in certain areas of your spiritual journey, or that you just would like to have community, you feel alone and sometimes like you're spinning your wheels looking for answers, you can get in now on my 6-week group transformation program. This Soul Awaken group transformation program is open now until January 30th, and we are going to move together through the first 4 stages of the awakening process and dive in deep to things such as tests and triggers, developing your spiritual gifts, protecting your energy, and so much more. There's a link down below if you'd like to get on the list. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure to share this time with you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time. Take care.